Love a bit of Aldi.
Can't go wrong with Aldi. If Aldi had a bakery like Lidl, then they'd just be top tier. Be the one.
All right, well, let's just jump straight into this episode because it's going to be a little bit of a different one. We haven't done a catch-up in a long time, have we, me and you?
No, I think the last catch-up we had, were we at Cozy Club or were we here?
Did we? Oh,
We
yeah.
might have only done
it was a
one
Cozy
this
Club
year.
catch-up, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was February, January.
I think that is the perfect, metaphor for how I feel that my year has gone. I feel like I was enjoying the quiet time and then blinked and it's now, mid-May.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
not really sure where the last 4 months have gone.
As we're talking now, I'm literally about to get into my busy period, so I'm still enjoying quiet time. But when I say enjoying, I've got to the point now where I'm twiddling my fingers. I need to get something done.
But it needs to happen soon. I'm the
Yeah.
same. I think the wedding that I shot, this weekend gone, was wedding number 5. And I've got, 28 this year.
Yeah.
So, we're coming up for, we're almost a third of the way through the year. And I've
Yeah.
still got definitely more than a third of my weddings to shoot.
Same. I'm 4 down and I've got another 25 to go. Yeah.
So you think, well, when are these things going to
Mid-May.
happen? Knowing that most of them aren't in November and December this year.
Yeah.
So it's things are about to take a turn soon.
I'm going to have a 2023 kind of July, I think. Yeah. I got 2 triples in July now, which
Wow.
I try and avoid. But you know what? When it comes in and it happens to be a good one on that third day, and you're like, do you know what? I'm going to take it because, as it stands right now with bookings and inquiries anyway, you kind of want to take what you can get.
Yeah.
But
even more so at short notice. I think I definitely have a more wandered eye if a 2026 comes in. I'll be a little bit more tactical with that. But if something came in now and it's for this year, it would have to be something either significantly off somewhere, or that red flag would have to be pretty huge, just being waved for me to turn around and go, no.
Yeah, I recently had a couple coming in who inquired with me and they really wanted me, and we had a chat, and I had to book them in even though it's going to be a triple. And to be honest, I don't mind when weddings are clumped together like that anymore. There was a point where I remember a couple of years ago where we spoke, and again, a lot of these things come from the pod, where we spoke, and like I said, I'm trying to avoid doing doubles. And I think something you said about, well, if you do doubles, that's one weekend you get off somewhere else.
It's just currency, isn't it?
That has been the case. I've had January, February, March, and April. And only 2 weddings in that time because it's all squashed in July. Will I be stressed in July? Probably. Yeah. But at the same time, I've had so many free weekends. Me and my wife were chatting yesterday and we were like, this has felt like you don't have a weekend job because it's been nice weather and it's felt like summer, but I haven't had weddings on.
This is the same. This will be the first year where I've had, again, I shot a wedding on the Thursday before Good Friday, but I still had the whole of Easter off.
Yeah.
And then the first bank holiday in May, I didn't shoot a wedding.
Yeah.
When normally those bank holidays are the first to book. And then actually, just before Christmas, my wedding for the last bank holiday of the year, or the last bank holiday for May, they cancelled, which I was kind of sad because they cancelled and it was going to be a good wedding.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's when have I ever, apart from 2020, had both May bank holidays and Easter off, but still get to a point where I'm probably not 1 or 2 weddings away from where I wanted to be for the year?
It's a nice feeling.
As a balance, it's incredible. And I think I said to you, and I kind of said that, if the absolute dream would be to only shoot on British summertime, so between the sort of April and October.
Yeah.
And if I could shoot 15 back-to-backs, 15 Friday, Saturdays.
Yeah.
Or a midweeker and one. So I would only shoot 15 weekends of the year. I'd have 36, 37 weekends off.
And you do get the flow of it, I think, with doubles as well, don't you?
Yeah.
There's something about, have you done Thursday, had Friday off, and then gone back on a Saturday?
The dip does me worse.
It's worse.
I've done a Friday and a Sunday before. I think even one year on a bank holiday, I had a Friday, Sunday, Monday.
Yeah.
So on the Saturday, I was kind of still trying to sort the bits out from Friday and kind of get everything charged and ready to go into the double. And I was like, I'm going to try to have the quietest day as I can because I've got double coming up.
Yeah.
And I wish I hadn't.
Yeah.
I should have just booked something in or gone and done something that required energy.
Yeah.
And then just died.
Because otherwise your energy
just
dies off. Yeah. Or in that middle thing, you sort of have the wedding hangover and you're like, I'm going to take it easy, pot around today. But you just had a double in a row. You wouldn't be able to take it easy. You'd wake up next morning, you'd force yourself, whether it's caffeine or just pure adrenaline, you'd get up and get it done, wouldn't you? So.
But I think as well, because of having that time off, I know everyone says that first wedding of the year, it's once you get back to prep, you get straight back into it. But I still think there's a degree of kind of flow state and muscle memory in what we do, where you kind of have that. You come in for the first wedding, go, that was good, a 1 down, 2 more to go. And you kind of look at that weekend as your cup final weekend, don't you? It's a marathon.
Definitely.
I need to get through this. I'm cruising. By the time I've hit the end of the first wedding, I'm only I'm barely at mile 8 or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're I need to keep going. And then you kind of feel good at the end of the second one, going, well, I've done more than I've got left.
Yeah.
And then there's that sense of like relief plus excitement. One, you're proud that you've done it. And as long as all the weddings are good, and I think it's also worth saying as well that I only work, most of my weddings are within an hour or two from my house.
Yeah.
So I would be coming home every night, or I wouldn't be having 5 and 6 hour travels between weddings.
No, yeah.
Which I think if you look at it in that model, and you're going, I'm going to shoot a wedding in Yorkshire on the Friday and then be, down in Somerset on the Saturday.
Yeah.
That might be a little bit more nightmarish for you than me going, well, I'm going to drive an hour one direction, come home, go to my own office with my own charging station, my own desk to back up, sleep in my own bed, and then get up again at probably 9 a.m, 10 a.m. to then go to the wedding the next day.
Yeah.
It seemed a bit more manageable.
That's tactical as well. If you did have one further away, you wouldn't necessarily take one the day after closer to home, would you?
No.
It would be quite difficult to do that.
And again, everyone's market's different, and that's some of the reason that I do like to work nearer to home, because I think it means that it gives you more options in those markets, that you're not having to have such big travel, because you're still getting paid the same money whether you shoot in wherever you are, but it means those other days either side are a lot more. Like if you're staying in a premiere in the night before or the night after, or then you're having to drive through the night to get somewhere, like I can go and do a double because I've had a good night's sleep in my own bed, and those things, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. What you say about like taking a bit of time off, and when you get back to the weddings, like it takes you a while to get back into things, and you do like slip back into what you do, right? But I remember my first wedding this year, I got to the ceremony, and like we'd set up a few, like a tripod and a camera at the back, and I was sort of like micing up the groom, and I was like, I've got to set up my other cameras. I just left them in the other room. I was like waiting for the ceremony to start, and I hadn't set up my cameras. So I was just sort of chilling there. And everything else had fell into place so much that I just got back into the flow, that when I forgot to do something, it like really gave me the kick that I needed, and everything else that day was fine. But I had like 5 minutes and quickly run to the other room, grab my cameras and tripods and put them in.
So you made it out alive. For me, it's normally silly mistakes. Like I'll come back to edit that first wedding and then go, oh, you didn't turn the lights off in prep room before you did portraits. Yeah. And now the bride's got an orange glow on her veil and lovely daylight coming onto her face. Or it's like odd little things like that. Or, do you know what? I've just run in somewhere and just tucked my bag in the background, and that's all I can see at the back of the ceremony now is this like little black box. Or it's normally something really, really silly like that. Or I'll find that like something where once you're in that state of like, check for this, check for that, okay, we'll start shooting. Or you see a moment play out in front of you and you just can't seem to get that speed to be in the right place or whatever. And it's those things where you think, now, come on, Tom, sort yourself out. Like you should have got that.
Yeah.
And I think once you're in that sort of flow of moving around, it's better.
I think it's candids that take a bit of time for me. It's like when you first get back into shooting candids and you're just trying to figure out the people's movements and things like that, which is like that's the mind, like what the things you have control over, and the things that are quite slow like are quite easy to predict. It's then when you get into candids and it's like, I haven't shot candids in a couple of months, I'm going to need to figure out what these people are doing and how they're going to act.
But at the same time, it gives you that excitement back, I think. Like, I like to think that most people get into this because they actually like their job and like being at weddings. And I do miss not being at weddings when I'm not. But to have time off, I don't feel now like I'm sacrificing time with family to go to a wedding, because I've had some nice family time. So you're like, I'm excited to go and do my job. And then you kind of think, I haven't had a wedding for a while. I'm really going to like... if you're constantly shooting every weekend, it's just like, oh, another wedding. And once you get there, you do enjoy it, or you feed off the energy of the couple or whatever. But there's still that part of like, you know that like stuff's going to be happening with your pals or whatever. And you're like, I am missing out on stuff where, we are at a point this year where I've never felt like I'm having my cake and I'm eating it. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm still loving being at weddings, but probably loving it more because I've had a couple of weekends off before each one to go and see friends and do those things. So I don't feel like the job is taking so much of that away from me.
That's why work-life balance is important, right? Because even when it gets to August, and this is pretty much unavoidable really, unless you're just someone that doesn't take July and August weddings, but when it gets to August, and like you say, like you open Instagram in the morning, your friends are off to the beach or whatever, and people are off here or there and every theme park or whatever it is, and you're like, I'm just going to go to a wedding, and if you feel like you're missing out because it's like the fourth weekend in a row you've got double weddings because it's August and like it's a really busy season, like you can start to feel like that. When you're there, again, like all that disappears, but it's that feeling of, oh, okay, I didn't have a weekend last weekend, now I don't have a weekend this weekend. But in the time where, either this time of year where things are a bit more spread out, or in times where you've taken a double, so that means you've got a weekend off in August, like it's rewarding, I think.
And I think as well, I'm really good at, like if I have a holiday booked in or something like that, I'm really good at going, okay, those weeks are blocked out. But that's it. But I would never think to go, well, I only want to shoot one of the 2 bank holidays this year.
Yeah.
Like if I get a booking for the first bank holiday in May, I won't take one for the last. I'm not that good at setting barriers for things like that.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of going into a year going, well, hopefully I've got kind of 2/3 of my bookings. I'll see what gaps are currently presenting themselves.
Yeah.
But if something comes on, that might have to give. And maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should be at that. They're going, do you know what? If I shoot Easter this year, I'm making sure that both the bank holidays are free, or if I'm shooting one bank holiday, I'm making sure that's free. And again, having that balance over your bookings. But then when things are slower to come in at the moment, like you say, you're jumping on stuff a little bit more because you feel that maybe you need to top the income up, that you can't do it all then, can you? That if that inquiry that you come in, which is an absolute, like real ripe peach that you want to pick, but it happens to ruin your Easter with the family, then you weigh up those options, don't you?
And that's the thing, you can't really pick and choose, can you, a lot of the time?
No.
Like your dates, by the time you come into the year, not knowing what you've got planned personally for that year, you normally come into the year completely clean slate, apart from the 2/3 of the weddings that you've got booked in. And then everything else that you do, A, personally, and B, those other third of weddings have to then fit around that. So whether it's like that, suddenly you need a booking, it's come up to Easter weekend, you've not got much plans, and it's like, well, like you did
Easter last year when I did the wedding with you, didn't I? They have to let them down 3 weeks ago. So I think again I had plans to go and see my friend, and so in the end I was like, well, maybe I'll come see you on the Sunday rather than the Saturday. And that's how it worked out. And I had to switch the day with him, but it was able to mean that I did jump in and do the wedding. And although it meant I got home late and I had to get up early to drive, I still made it work. But at the end, was I grateful that I had another booking that I wasn't expecting the month before that. I did a lovely wedding. We got to hang out still, and I still got my day there. So it's you give and take, don't you?
It worked out in the end, And so I mean, at the moment, I feel like with the conversations we're having, people are not necessarily getting an abundance of inquiries. No. So picking and choosing is quite hard, and that leads quite nicely onto a little experiment that I'm doing at the moment.
But before you jump into that, can I just say one thing on the inquiry thing we started? I just want to say I hope that everybody enjoyed the episode with Adam. That came out last. That was such a good episode. There was, in talking, kind of before we go into inquiries, I kind of feel that it's worth touching on that if anyone didn't catch that episode with Adam, the fact that I think is really good at handling client experience anyway, that there was good knowledge in there from that, plus the fact now that obviously he's getting married in October, and it was some of those nuggets that he shared from like his own wedding planning, that made it really like, this is really like, like the thing when he was talking about on the Sunday night, like I'd never even assumed, like, but couples do sit down and go, we're going to block this time out for Wedmin, and so we're going to send all of the emails for this supplier then. And in some of that, like they must like all of them, which is why they've inquired all of them. That maybe just that, and they're sat there then, half an hour later going, not replied yet. And I'm sure that we've had episodes a few ago where we were talking about this in the inquiries episode, where it's like, do couples really expect us to reply within half an hour on Sunday night?
Yes.
But then it's like, but as soon as you look at it as a groom, or even I do, if I message somebody about, can you do this for me? I still go and check my emails 20 minutes later, even though it is a Sunday evening, and kind of go, it'd be really handy if they got back to me right now.
Because I've got time to respond back.
And that was just one of 2 or 3 things that he came out with, and it started to kind of, again, rather than take me away from my like, I'm in business mode, I'd like to reply to them, I only keep office hours and stuff, to kind of seeing it from how people are planning weddings now. So much good stuff in there.
I love the idea of, there's a lot of like educators right now in our industry, right? Like, people selling education and stuff. I love the idea of a couple as an educator, like a couple who are getting married, and that's like, again, like Adam talking about his experience as like being in the couple's shoes sort of thing, and also on their podcast, Think Wedding Business, they also we spoke about that as well. And if nobody has gone to that yet, they had a couple on there. Who actually got married and had Howard there at their wedding, and they explained some of the decisions they made on not getting a videographer, getting a content creator, and lots of other things on like what they liked and didn't like about suppliers' responses, didn't they? And that's like, as a couple being an educator, it's so much more valuable than one of us saying this is what couples want, because we guess what couples
and
want,
how couples find people and stuff as well. I even had like a little bit of this, or how couples are coming around to stuff. So I had like an engagement shoot on Saturday night with a couple. They get married in July this year, and we were kind of talking, as you do, you kind of wandering around. And she'd mentioned that it was a big year for weddings in their household because her sister is also getting married in December. And so she said, my sister said to me, like you guys are kind of 6 months ahead of us in planning. this is what this looks like. Have you got any people that you could recommend? So she was like, I sent her the same list of 3 or 4 photographers that we looked at before we booked you. Same with like florists and stuff. And she's like, she came back and was like, well, yeah, like the photographers are cool, but I don't like any of them. And because she's like, but then her style is very different to mine.
Yeah.
So she's like, it's not that I gave her bad advice, but they said she's quite a bit younger than me, and she was showing me like some stuff on Instagram and was like, I really love this, and I love like these florals. And she said, and I almost had to remind her. It's like, yes, that looked great, but do you aware that there's probably 20 grand off her flowers in that room?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh no, I just saw it and thought it looked amazing. And thought, I want
Of course
that.
it does, yeah.
And it's like, of course it does, because it's and even the bride that I was talking to was quite mindful of. She maybe had seen it from a more level way of like, okay, or maybe a more practical point of view of that must be really expensive, or we've inquired and know how much that costs.
Yeah.
And I think some people, or it made me think about even more so how we consume Instagram, or we see loads of wedding stuff and assume that everybody sees it as well.
Yeah.
But or we know the fiction behind some of that, where someone who is planning their wedding will just literally scroll through and go, oh, that venue's like a barn, that looks like our barn, but that looks sick with all those flowers.
Yeah.
And don't even equate that is the most elevated version that barn's ever going to look because of the budget or whatever. Or they might ask for recommendations in style, but even these people, which are 2 sisters, she didn't like any of her photographers because she's probably looking for something much more editorial, where the couple that I've booked definitely don't want that.
Yeah.
And I found that really interesting in that sometimes you'd think to get a word of mouth recommendation from somebody would be like a gold seal of approval. But in the end, it could actually be something quite problematic.
Yeah. I've had that before. I've had it where a sister of a bride that I'd filmed before has reached out. I've had a call with them. And the whole call was based on how can you make my film look different to hers?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, your wedding's different, and there's only a certain amount of times, but they asked that 3 times in one call. And at the end of the day, they never spoke to me again after that call.
Do you know what's really interesting? Because I have done a wedding. So we did Katie and Ollie's wedding, didn't we, back in March last year? Yeah. And obviously I shot her wedding, sister's wedding, 2 years previous. Again, different venue, different time of year, completely different couples. They're sisters enough that they get on their friends. They're not that different, but their weddings were quite different.
But at the same time,
maybe there is an education post in that though, to go, look, here's the same father of the bride, here's the same mother of the bride, here's that sister, but she's in the bridesmaid's dress here, and then vice versa at this wedding. Yeah. But this is how the story and the day dictates the differences, but hopefully they're still shot in the same style.
Yeah.
Well, that's set my own mind to thinking about from doing that. But
surely you have a different, you have the same style, but surely everyone has a different story. And if you're telling the story, it's going to look different. If you're one of these cookie cutter photographers and videographers, then maybe not, you might get the same stuff.
Could you imagine if you did that and then you were like, oh, I haven't got a good shot of the father of the bride? You could borrow him from the last wedding, cut his head out, and then bring it on.
AI him in.
That's wild to think that's probably possible now, though, isn't it?
It would be possible, yeah. I mean, I do it with venue shots sometimes. I'm like, I didn't get enough time for venue shots. I'll just whack it into the...
Do you know what? I've thought about it, but I've never done it. Yeah. There's always something in me that goes, no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
There's like a mental barrier that kind of feels like, nope, I didn't get it.
I know what you mean. And most of the time they wouldn't notice if it wasn't in there. But I I want a few more establishers, or maybe I didn't get the drone up that day or something like that. I'll just get the drone shot from before.
Because I can't remember who it was now, but someone was saying to me that they had like an idea for a business like this in working in certain regions.
Yeah.
And saying like if they could hook up with like all the venues, almost you could make like a Hampshire like wedding like stock library. So imagine if you got venues that don't let you fly a drone a day or whatever, you could go on there and go, I'm going to go to 20 venues and I'm going to get establishing shots of all of these shots from the air.
There was one.
Was there?
There was one. A guy posted on the videographers group like, there's a geezer soaring outside.
It always happens. Nobody does DIY in my day until Chris rocks up, but then literally everyone gets their power tools out.
A guy posted in the videographers group like a couple of years ago and was like, I'm setting up this website where you can upload all your drone footage, and then so there's like basically a library of then drone footage for as many venues as possible. And I think you go on there and you buy like the clip for a $5 or whatever. That person gets a bit of a cutback from their footage, which they've already got. But also, if you don't get a chance to fly the drone, you can just buy an establishing shot of X barn or X hotel for a $5. And it's like, that sounds great, but I think it just disappeared off face of the earth. I don't think it gets used, but it sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Like, I would love it because I only get establishing shots. So realistically, I could probably use it for every wedding if I really wanted to. Like, I don't really use the drone for much anymore. I think it's had its day a little bit.
Again, I think I bought mine with the idea of, again, if you get to cool venues to have just two or three shots to show kind of the uniqueness of the location. But there's a lot of times now where, because I do probably tend to work at, say, similar venues or because my work is much more people led, it's not necessarily led by like the places in it and stuff. It's not like the couple haven't booked me because they want that drone shot. Maybe I
Yeah.
wouldn't market with it, but I still think there's definitely a place for it, and maybe more so in video, or even I'm starting to see creeping into photo now. People again maybe trying something different, that to have like that overhead drone shot like during the ceremony, or like during the confetti or something like that, for like a really unique viewpoint. Like
There are sometimes, like last year I used it during like a sunset evening reception. So we did the sunset shoot and everything, but then there was still quite a lot of light left because the couple just were like, I'll give, like, we only want 5 minutes for sunset shoot. So there's loads of light left, and they were having like espresso martinis and cocktails and stuff on this courtyard. And I was like, I'm just going to get the drone up and fly it around them. And like, it was a really nice shot of just like everyone just having drinks all in one place, literally top down.
Especially when you get those long shadows.
Yeah, it was that.
Or the warm light hitting the buildings. It really lends itself to that time of day.
And that kind of stuff is great. But that's why at the moment I'm quite using, we can tell you haven't caught up in a while because we're like floating all over the place. I'm quite enjoying using the zoom lens for different focal lengths, because there's something about seeing, there's a lot of videographers that probably only shoot 50mm or that kind of area. There's something about seeing a drone shot and then seeing a whole film shot at 50mm, which the drone shot feels slapped in.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it fits. And so if you go from a drone shot to a wide, like 24mm of a venue, and then you start to bring things a little bit tighter. Like if you watch a film, for example, of two people talking like this, it will start on the wide shot, and then gradually it'll get closer and closer to them as the conversation gets more intense, if it's like a thriller or something.
Because you feel
and at the end it will literally be extreme close-up. And that's kind of how I feel about this, is like you go from big wide drone shot of the venue from about a mile away, and then everything else is 50mm. But like if you try and if you use focal lengths depending on what you're trying to convey, you get so much more emotion from that. Even a wedding breakfast room, yes, okay, it works at 35mm or 50mm, but if it's an epic wedding breakfast room, make it look like big, right? You want to make it look as big as possible, and the best way to do that is to go wide. So,
but it's odd, but at the same time, that's some of the reason that I moved, or one of the reasons that I moved across to prime lenses, is that I found that sometimes then my galleries would jump, like say you'd be in a church, you stand on the spot, zoom out super wide, get all the guests in, get the beams in, and then literally, rings are going on now, 8 mil, and it's quite jarring. To use for the predominant part, not to say that I haven't, I've got a super wide which I use for the dance floor sometimes, or if there was a vast venue and I could have a viewpoint, I would use it. But for the most part, it's one of those things that on the face of it, you probably wouldn't pick it up as a consumer. But to know that your entire wedding is pretty much shot at 2 focal lengths, it does give a degree of consistency. That I have a 35, which is, I wouldn't say it's super wide, but it's wide and it's tight. And so you do pop, and everything feels like it's got a similar look in terms of distortion and like throw out and the rest of it. And it provides consistency to a gallery. But then if you're 50mm all day, and all of a sudden you chuck in drone, which is like what, 12mm?
20.
Not only is it an alien viewpoint, but it's so much wider that it feels so jarring, doesn't it?
Feels like it's been chucked in. Which is, I mean, I shoot most of my stuff on 50mm, and even on my Zoom, I shoot most stuff on 50mm, and then I chuck a drone shot in there just because it's a done thing, right? I'd love to get the drone. The Mavic Pros, they got like a 75mm on them now. Imagine that from the drone. It'd be well cool. Like get some depth and some.
I think I've seen that, but I think that's the idea, isn't it? About providing that consistency as well. Then is that, or almost, and we talked about this in our limitations episode, didn't we? Is that if you did limit yourself to literally one focal length, you would have to use your feet or perception or angle or composition or whatever to make the film what it is. But the look of it, I feel, would feel so crisp because it's literally the one.
Yeah, definitely. And I love doing that, don't get me wrong. Like I've got this zoom lens, but I've got a wedding coming up on Thursday, and I'm planning on shooting that back on primes again, just because I quite like switching between them, and again, like reminding myself what it's like and training my brain to do both, if you know what I mean.
But fair enough, we talked about this off pod, didn't we? And it's not in our notes at all, and it shows how long it's been since we've had just kind of a day to just kind of just let everything kind of flow out of us. Is that both of us are at a point now where we are coming up to, this is my 10th year of doing it. You're pretty much the same, aren't you? Where I feel that you always want to grow and get better, but you're still at a point where we've been doing this job a long time. We've been to a lot of weddings. And it's like, I feel now that in most scenarios I can do a pretty good job. So it's nice to kind of have something for yourself, or almost give yourself those little challenges to make some of the others feel different, or I'm going to try a different way into this, or I'm going to experiment with that. Like we'll get onto cameras in a minute. Like I've gone back to shooting a lot more film this year to kind of as a way to go, okay, that will slow me down a little bit, or maybe I am going to be more intentional. Because you get into that flow of like, oh yeah, like, you know, mid-burst range.
Your brain's not really thinking.
Oh yeah, there'll be something in there. I'm just framing and then letting the burst go.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for the moment anymore. Where if I'm trying to like manually pull a 35mm camera, there's that, I need to get this frame and
thinking about it and having time.
And for you, between both, some job maybe you can get away with using the prime still, or the job is a slower pace. Where on something where you're going to be in and out of different venues, big places, small places, that the zoom is the perfect answer. Yeah. But at the same time, it's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's like we were talking about this off pod. Like we've got what we want now in terms of like equipment and everything. So, but just because I can shoot on a zoom all the time doesn't mean I don't want to challenge myself with primes and having that. You know, I've shot whole weddings on 50mm, and some of them have been like my favorite sort of films in terms of like the look of them. But I enjoy the versatility of the 28-70 and being able just to run around with it and not have to worry about a second camera hanging off me or anything like that. So they both have their benefits, and I like that. And like I say, like challenging yourself each time is.
Yeah, same. Obviously, I did an engagement shoot. Again, going back to that on Saturday. So I did the same. I used my zoom lens because I didn't want to be wandering around the forest with like my hold fast on and this and that. It feels quite a lot for something which is more informal than a wedding, or when you're kind of out more in public when you're not on a wedding day.
Yeah.
Like to just have like a camera across me with like a 24-70 on it, that feels like much more like touristy or like man wandering with people in the forest than like full on hold fast dripping in gear like. It's something we think engagement shoot is probably the first time the couple have been photographed. They're maybe not quite expecting that when they turn up on the day. And again, it was fun. I enjoyed the challenge. I haven't used that lens on a shoot since probably the last time I did an engagement shoot, like last summer. So it's nice to kind of be one cameras again, but still feel that you've got the versatility. But then at the same time, I found myself getting into kind of spots and being like my 35mm feet on, do you know what I mean? And now I was away and then having to dial the camera in. And so there was a little bit of like kind of clunkiness to it because I always knew where I wanted to be for certain shots. And it was
definitely a learning curve with zoom, isn't there? But I've got into the habit of putting it at 50 now and just like shooting at 50, and then if I need to zoom in or out, then I'll do that. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's such good discipline though. Yeah, I think it's that idea of discipline that you reset to 50 after you've gone either way to kind of get back to your base.
Otherwise, you can get lazy.
Yeah.
And there was a time. So on Sunday, I shot this wedding, and the candids were. It was outside, but for some reason, everyone decided to stand really squashed in like sardines.
Penguins.
There's so much space. And like when the bride and groom came out, literally like they swarmed the bride and groom, and they just disappeared into this hole of people. And there was no way if I shot 50mm that I was getting anything, because I would have had to stand on the outside of this circle of
all backs of heads.
I just got loads of backs of heads, so I just got in there and I ended up shooting 28mm, which I don't like 28mm focal length for weddings, or I don't think it fits with my aesthetic with my video. But I had to be there and I had to do that. And if I didn't have that lens with me, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So those little moments are...
It's funny, isn't it? Because like you were saying a minute ago, where like with like kind of filming, like say you start with that wide and then you kind of zoom in on that. Where I feel sometimes that at weddings, like mine's almost the reverse of that. Yeah. When you get in the morning, people don't know you as well. It's easier to kind of like, foreground interest, bit of 85.
Yeah.
And then once they start to know you, you move on to the 35 and you're stood in the thing. Then by the dance floor, I am on say the 20 then literally like... camera in the face, no one cares, like everyone's drunk, everyone knows you, and you kind of get braver, and it's like the braver that I get, the wider the lens gets because I want to get closer. And it's kind of the so you still get a very similar feel, but you can tell that you're literally stood on top of them by the time that you're on the
problem is
floor.
Depending on your isolation of the person, like if you shoot at 20mm, or like I'd love to shoot dancing quite wide, but then you end up exposing if it's a bad dance floor, don't you?
I think that's it. You can always, or again, same as like I've shot portraits on an 85 before, and I've taken the couple to a spot and they've gone, are you sure you want to be here? Because there's like all this rubbish here and this mess here, and it's like, yes, but the slither behind you is like the perfect location, the perfect light, and I can shoot at 85 and don't see any of that. And you would have no idea that we're literally like stood by the side of a bush in a car park, because you can't see the mess behind it. You can only see what that small window shows. Where if I shot that at 35, it'd be far too revealing and you wouldn't want any of it. So there definitely is a lens choice for whatever the situation that you're in. But I think sometimes to do something different, to challenge yourself, is also a good thing to do as well, to kind of sort of stay creatively fulfilled, or
100%,
feel that you are kind of giving different ways of separation.
50 is so versatile though, for video anyway. I think for 35 and 85 combo for photo is probably better than
more 35. I still reckon at a real push, if like someone like Desert Island dissed me and was like, you have to pick one camera and one lens, I think I probably would still pick a 35. I think there's enough wide in it that if you stand back, it feels wide, but you can still shoot a good portrait on it. Although you've got to be quite near to the subject, you can shoot a full length without it feeling too distorted.
That's
I think for me, a 35 is like even like I'd almost be tempted one day, like if I was shooting like a small 2-hour wedding and I knew that the access in the ceremony was good or the ability for me to be close enough would be good, I reckon one camera and a 35mm and I'd have a good old go at it.
I agree. Yeah, for photo, I agree.
Yeah, it'd be good fun. But anyway, we both bought cameras at the moment. There's new kit sat on the table, isn't there?
There is. Yeah.
Like it wouldn't be a catch up without a little bit of tech talk.
Yeah. So we're going to do an episode on holiday cameras at some point. I'm pretty sure we are.
It's the episode that Chris is most excited about.
So
like
excited.
This is what episode 53 now that we've done, and it's been on the vision board. We've spoken about it. I think holiday cameras mentioned in at least 2 titles of previous episodes.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to get its own one. I think.
Yeah. I think it should, and I've been thinking a lot about it as well because it's something that I've been like hunting for a long time. It's like the perfect holiday camera in a way. And obviously that depends on like what you're aiming to capture. Is it photo? Is it video? Do you want to make like cool travel videos, or do you just want to capture memories, that kind of thing? And it's been a whole thing of buying cameras, selling them.
The thing that I find the funniest about this is I probably only an episode or 2 episodes ago, like there was violins in the distance as Chris made the revelation that he hadn't had a holiday in 6 months.
Yeah.
And so now that there's a new holiday camera sat on the table,
there's a new holiday booked.
There's a new holiday booked. And it's like, well, if I've booked a holiday, I need to buy a holiday camera again, and the things go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And so
so I've got a holiday 3 weeks away, going back to Turkey. I mean Antalya. I love Antalya. So like the hotels are
lush.
This is
3 out of 3 for you. This is third year in a row.
Going to Antalya, which is strange for me. Like I mean, up until last year, Kate and I hadn't been to the same place twice. Then we went to Turkey again twice, and then Disney
in the same year.
As well. So. But yeah, no, I just think like we wanted a nice, comfortable holiday, and we know we like Antalya. We're trying a different hotel this time, doing some different excursions. So we've got 3 different days where we book different things.
Perfect for a holiday camera to test out, then, really, isn't it?
Holiday camera, exactly, yeah. So I'd like for people that can't see, I don't know if it was in the shot anyway, but I've now bought the Fuji X100VI, which has been a whole thing, which I'll probably save the whole story for the episode. But yeah, so this camera is going to be like what I'm going to take with me.
So you had the 5 twice, didn't you?
I had the 5 twice, and sold it for various reasons. Again, like I don't want to go into it too much now.
Well, find the episode where the one that we recorded about a week after you sold it for the second time, and all the things that you said about why you sold it, and you didn't need a holiday camera again, and
so sold it again. Bought an A7C. Was going to use that as my holiday camera. Long story short, like I was hesitant to get it out. It's a little bit bigger, but it's not too much bigger. But I realised for me, it's the barrier of entry that is, it feels too much like work. Yeah. And I don't like really editing photos. So when I had to, shooting on my Sony, and then I'd get back from holiday and I'd be like, put the SD card in, put them into Lightroom. I'd be like, I can't be arsed. Like it feels too, even though I'm not a photographer in my work, like it feels like work because I'm on Lightroom, I'm adjusting colors, and
the fact that there's no ability at the moment to kind of dial in recipes or LUTs or anything like that in the same way that you can on the Fujis, or I believe you can on the Lumixes.
Yeah.
So you can put a look into it and shoot in JPEG like that, which for me, when I had my Fuji, was one of the best things about it. Like you say, is you could shoot in JPEG, but you still feel that you had some control over how the colours looked. So that satisfied my need to not edit because they had a look that didn't look like bog standard out the camera JPEG, but I didn't have to do that on my computer.
Exactly.
I dialed it in at the start and shot away in it, and that was fine. Yeah.
And so again, I came back to Fuji because of that, and I thought, this camera is really hard to get at the moment, but I luckily managed to get one. I thought this time it's got stabilization in it, whereas the last one didn't, so I can switch to video mode if I really want to and get some stuff. The autofocus tracking, I've dialed in custom recipes now rather than relying on the film recipes, because as someone who doesn't really have that nostalgia towards film, like using the film recipes was just, for me, it was like, I don't really know what I'm getting here that I won't be getting. So I found some recipes online. Like there's a recipe called Reggie's Portrait, which is quite colourful and the green's quite nice in it. And there's a few ones which kind of like do what I would do to my photos anyway, like a little bit of a teal sky, warmer grass, that kind of thing. And now I've dialed in, like I've spent more time this time dialing in how to make it how I want to be with back button focus and things like that. Whereas the last times that I've used that camera, I kind of got it out of the box, put it into classic chrome or whatever, and then just never changed it. Yeah. Whereas this time I've gone in, I've changed pretty much everything about the menus to make it how I'd want to. I've taken it on a few little trips with me so far, and I'm absolutely loving taking it around.
So you've
with me.
almost used the knowledge of work to set it up in the way that it's easiest to use, so that when you get on holiday, you effectively can point and shoot with it, but you've already dialed in a custom recipe, functions that make it, you're going to get the best out of it with back button and stuff. So when you get on holiday or when you get home from holiday with your images, there's no work to be done.
Yeah.
I think that's quite a clever way to do it.
I've learned the dynamic range setting, so that, because there's a dynamic range like enhancer on it, and one of the things that I didn't like about it before was dynamic range. Like you take a
it
photo
felt too
in
like
nice,
HDR looks, did it?
It wasn't enough.
Okay.
It was, on holiday, obviously, like sometimes you'll get like a nice low sun evening or whatever, and it would just be blown out because you're using the JPEG, and I didn't want to edit the RAW, right?
Yeah.
But on this, and maybe even the old one, there's a dynamic range optimizer. And it turns out you have to shoot at 500 ISO plus for it to work, but it's got an ND filter built in, so that's quite easy to do. So that dynamic range optimizer, essentially what it does is just brings down the highlights a little bit in every shot, which is really nice.
Yeah, because I think that's the problem is that shooting with JPEG is that it's been really easy to expose for the sky, and then you crush your shadows, or if the building or the person stood in front or whatever, or you lift that up and blow the sky. It's it's a constant problem. Which RAW and there's something which you can credit the Sony's for, is the dynamic range is insane.
It's insane,
that that it really quickly in a RAW file you can do it, but you don't want to be doing that to a holiday photo. You just want a cute picture of your wife at sunset, don't you?
Exactly. That's all you really want, and like. For me, all I want is moments, but captured on something that's not a phone, because I do really notice the difference between a phone and I convince myself that if I bought the iPhone 15, it has a little 35mm mode in it, and then I could edit it in a way that looks like a camera and maybe add some depth to it or whatever. But it just doesn't feel right.
But I think as well, we're so in tune, or maybe as people that use expensive cameras or look at images taken on expensive cameras every day or lots of it, you come attuned to quality. Like if you're editing 4K footage day in, day out, and then you go and watch something which is 720p, you feel like you're developing cataracts, or it feels like it's like it should be sharper.
You really notice
it should be this. So I think even again, when you're taking your memories, you don't want all of the baggage attached to the holiday camera stuff. But you still want, there's that level of quality that you're used to or you expect, isn't there, from any footage that you make or take.
And even my wife, like, I took her into the WEX store in Manchester while we were up there, and I showed her the Fuji and stuff, and I was like, what do you think of me buying this? Because obviously, like, I'm gonna, like, we use the Sony at the moment and whatever, and she was like, to be honest, like, because she obviously shoots with me and stuff, and uses that Sony that we use for holidays, she uses that at weddings. She's like, it feels too much like work. So it's nice to have something smaller. She was like, I like the look of this Fuji because it's something which I wouldn't feel weird getting out on holiday, because it wouldn't feel like I'm starting work by getting it out of the bag and getting.
Well, it doesn't look again. It still feels, although that Fuji have harnessed that sort of retro look really well, haven't they? Is that it still feels like you still feel like a tourist with it. You don't feel like you go somewhere and there's like the guy with the 70 to 200 and like the strap like wrapped around his wrist or whatever, and you're like, oh wow, you're someone that likes cameras and wants to do this. Where I feel like you still blend in touristy places with a camera.
100%. It just hangs around your neck, and it's so small. It just looks like it's I even
call that tourist mode. If you walk with a camera around your neck and it's there, like that is for me. I call that tourist mode. That is a thing.
But I wonder if you've spoken about using your Leica for weddings before. I wonder if you started using that for every wedding, when you took it out on holiday, would you feel a different way?
Probably.
You feel it?
Yes. Yeah, and that's why I do think I've used it at a couple of weddings. And I've enjoyed the process, but I think again, I like the fact that it takes that bit more time where you can do these things, but I'm not sure for me, because I expect or I'm used to the speed that I can work out with my Sonys, that the Leica's not built for that. So a couple of times I'm like, well, why doesn't it do that? Or why can't I look at this picture quick enough? Because it doesn't render that fast, or you need to take that little bit more care with it, which on a holiday you've got. But then even film, I think, like now I've started to use film, and we'll talk about the camera that I've bought in a minute, is I love the look of film, and I bought it to want to slow down. But at the end of the day, stuff on a wedding day still moves fast. And so you need something that can keep up with it.
That's it.
So I don't know if I've mentioned on the pod, but at the start of this year, I've been shooting a roll of 35mm every wedding that I've shot so far. But my love, I think, for film photography has always been rooted in medium format photography. I've had the big RB, which I've shared on here before. And I love that camera. It's not going anywhere, but there's no way I can take that thing to a wedding. It's like the size of a cinder block. It weighs not far off that as well. I
remember you considering it at one point, but
have to shoot it on a tripod. It would break my neck if I put it on a strap.
Yeah.
But the idea of wanting to shoot something, a bigger negative at a wedding, again, to get the quality of something, or that fall off that is better than 35mm, but without having to manually meter and all the rest of it, I kind of went on to like, well, what do I buy? And in the end, I found this, which again, I think you can see on the table. but it looks like a big version of Chris's camera. But
it's a Fuji as well.
But it's
right?
still it's a Fuji as well, but it's pretty small for a medium format camera. Like if I block my face, it might focus.
Yeah.
And so this is a Fuji. It's a 645 medium format camera. So it takes 16 photos on the roll, but of bigger film. But essentially, it's pretty much a point and shoot. It has a P for professional mode. It also has an aperture priority. Yeah. It's autofocus. So you pretty much line it up.
Isn't the sensor vertical as well?
Yeah. So as the way that the film goes across it naturally shoots in portrait mode. I have to turn it on its side, which where you would normally shoot portraits to shoot landscapes.
Yeah.
Because of the way that the film loads in and it being 645 and the rest of it. But I primarily bought this, although it might end up coming on some trips with me because it is just a lot more portable than the RB. I still want, if I wanted to go and have like a mindful photo trip, I might go and take my tripod and take my RB and compose something like of a landscape or like a much slower portrait thing. But at a wedding, I can sling this around my neck, literally pop the lens cap off, and it's taken. So it works at a similar speed. It can keep up.
You're not trying to meter the light and things like that.
It can keep up with my digital workflow, but still give me a negative and all of the joys of having film from the wedding day that I want.
Yeah.
And I think that's the
perfect
problem.
Middle ground, isn't it?
But where film was becoming more popular, I think a lot of people that didn't shoot it the first time round are embracing sort of the nuances of having to try and manually focus and stuff and the rest of it. But it's like, I know how to shoot film. I know the look that I want from it, but I still don't want to compromise the way, or I don't want my couple shoots to get infinitely longer because I'm having to like set a tripod up and that sort of stuff. So I'm hoping I've shot a roll at the wedding I did on Friday, and once I get the scans back from that, then I can see how it moves. And there's always going to be a learning process with shooting film again, of getting back into it or using it on a wedding or finding out when's best to use it and some things that are better not for and the rest of it. But like we said with the zoom lens, I'm enjoying the process of it and kind of finding my way back into that. And also the film's been really well received by couples.
You shoot 5 minutes of a couple shoot, right, digitally, right? So if you're then taking 5 to 10 minutes with film as well, it feels like that's taken over. Yeah. So you need something that you can like use on the go and doesn't take away from that experience, but the couple can still look back at
the thing that I'm finding really odd with it though is say with that, like on a roll, so you get 16 shots. Yeah. So it's kind of being, okay, I'm going to take like the one on the film and then you go back into the video again. So it's quite nice to see when I got the 35mm scans back from the wedding I did over Easter, that kind of there are very similar frames on the film to I had on the digital in the end, because I was interlacing, but there's just something again about that not having to edit it really. Like you get the scans back, just tweak it, scrub it, and it's like it's done to it on the road, and it has such a cool look already. Like it might look different to my digital, but it's almost like just having something which looks or almost like a mini story. Like I'm already thinking like if I can shoot, especially with this 16. Like to put a reel up with like a slideshow of 16 frames, and hopefully they're spread evenly across the wedding. Like, so
you get an idea of the full day. Yeah, different parts
like in the same way of dropping sneak peeks, I'm just going to drop the roll.
Yeah,
and embrace that for the slightly wonkiness, maybe.
So are you going to include those prints in the box that you give to the couple as well?
That's what I'm working towards. I think when I get to a point where I can probably deliver a roll of pretty much consistent film, that there's not a couple of dud frames or a black one or like an underexposed one or whatever. Once I get to that point, that's the aim. Is to maybe phase out the prints in the box will then become prints from the film.
Yeah, that's good.
And I'm also debating at the point as well, at that point is, in terms of legacy, is do I find a way to present the negatives and give the couple the negs?
Yeah.
Because essentially I took the photos, the raw files would stay with me, but then at the same time, I want them to cherish those photos and go on forever. And in 50 years, if someone finds their box and goes, I want this really cool photo of Nan, but we've only got a little print of it in the box, the online gallery's long gone, that there should still be a way that they can get that negative out the box and make their own print.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a cool idea.
Yeah. And for me, keeping the high-res scans that I get from the lab when they develop it, that will be enough for my archive process. I'll keep those with the edits of the thing. Yeah. That's the plan.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So again, it's all good fun, isn't it? So
we'll be updating you guys as we go through the year, whether like on your sort of film journey.
Yeah.
And on the holiday camera.
But I think it's that process of the journey again. Like I feel like because we're getting to that point where we're a decade into the wedding photography journey, is that I never want to become stale. I always want to be excited to go to work or find the next thing or stay fresh or do whatever and keep enjoying this job for the way that I have. But at the end of the day, when you're doing something very much the same nearly 300 times, there's still, I never want to get to that point where I'm settling.
Yeah, it's hard to do that, isn't it? Because you are doing the same thing. And like you, up until I say recently, not really, but like things like gear and that isn't exciting anymore because it's peaked, really, isn't it? Like, you can't really get any better.
Or
than
the
what
gear
we've
that we
got
want as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I remember again, but like I say, we've talked about in the past being a student and peering in the window of a camera shop, going, "I'd love to own a flagship SLR one day. Or I'd love a 1.4 lens." And now that they are,
Now
they're
you've got
just
your
tools that you've got
1.4s,
them,
you can-
and
you're-
off
yeah,
you go. And it's
yeah.
like, what is the next thing, really?
Yeah. So you looked at other things for that source of inspiration, and weddings are inspiring enough, but you do a few of them over summer, and sometimes it does get to a point where you're turning up and you're doing your thing, and we're like part of the reason we probably work for ourselves and that we're entrepreneurs and whatever it is because we like a challenge, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
we like trying new things and like putting ourselves out of our comfort zone, and that comes from like you say, like bringing a film to
and
camera,
also having the ability
camera,
to make
whatever it is.
change.
Yeah.
Like the fact that we run our own businesses is that if you're in a 9 to 5 and you could maybe see that the process in which you're being asked to roll your job out isn't the most effective way, or you think there's a better way, it takes a long time to push for that change to get it made. Where we're sat there and we can go, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And off you go. Aren't we? And we make the change, and we have the ability to do that, which it wasn't planned as a segue, but it segued quite nicely into the experiment that you're running currently.
Yes. So I'm running a bit of an inquiry experiment. Essentially, over the last couple of months, inquiries have been pretty low, as they have been for most people.
Amen,
I guess.
brother.
Yeah. This year has been very strange. Like, I've still got probably 2 or 3 more slots I'd quite like to fill. Next year, I'm a bit lower than I normally am as well. I'm charging a lot more, to be fair. So
you're worth a lot more, though.
Scope.
I think that's fair to say. I think it's easy to look at yourself, but I think even from 2 years ago, the films that you're making now to then, I think whether someone's going to pay it or not is hard.
That's the thing,
But at the same, I don't ever think that you should get to that point where you think, well, I have to lower my prices to get to that. It's finding the market which appreciates.
That's the thing, isn't it? Finding the market, and I don't think that I am too expensive, but if you look at the people around me, I'm one of the more expensive ones. So it's definitely harder to try and try and be worth that. Essentially. But yeah, so essentially, like, next year's like looking again, I'm probably 2 lower than I was for this time last year, sort of thing. In terms of booking, so it's not like panic mode's quite yet. But I thought, you know what, the inquiries aren't like, I'm not having to deal with a lot of admin at the moment. We are people on this podcast that we both have our prices on our website.
Yeah, and I've been quite firm on that. I've always had mine on and wanted to.
And I'm the same. I fully agree with having that. I think it lowers the admin. It cuts out people that can't afford you straight away.
Yeah.
But there are other reasons to not have your price on the website or to have inquire for prices.
Which are all valid reasons as well.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that ours is the right way and everybody else is wrong. It's just, you find how you want to do business, don't you?
So I thought I'd run a bit of an experiment. I thought, I've got nothing to lose. I'm only getting I've not got a huge amount of inquiries or admin to deal with. I'm not in middle of wedding season where I'm panicking, like, I can't reply to all these inquiries and stuff. And last time I took my price on my website, it was a January, and like, inquiries rocketed so much I just struggled to get back to all of them, and it didn't help me one bit. But I thought I'd try again. So I took prices off my website. I decided I'm going to try a little bit of dynamic pricing.
Okay.
So if it comes in for 2025, it's a little bit cheaper. And 2026, it's the price that it was before.
Which is one of the great reasons of having your price off. It gives you flexibility to price per job, doesn't it? Rather than in a package system or a one size fits all.
Yeah. I took them off. I was going to do it for a month to see how it goes. And it started 4th of May. So we're about halfway through, just under halfway through at the moment. So results are at the moment is
drum roll.
Yeah, it's not good. Basically, no.
So you haven't seen a lift in inquiries?
Yeah, I've seen a lift in inquiries. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm getting roughly 2 inquiries a day.
Wow.
Which is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, when we've spoken to other people on this pod that have said they don't show their prices, for them to be receiving, 500, 600, 700 inquiries a year is the number. So if you're saying 2 a day, then you're pretty much good. If you carried on with that, you would be looking to receive hundreds a year.
Exactly. Obviously, like, a lot of admin to deal with, 2 inquiries a day. Part of the thing that I like when you have an issue, for example, or my issue is that I'm not getting the amount of inquiries that I want, is I don't know whether the word is triage, but trying to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
And seeing that without my prices on my website, I'm getting 2 inquiries a day, means that all along people were looking at my website, but when the prices were on there, they weren't inquiring.
Yeah, being found was never your problem.
No.
It was converting to an inquiry. Yeah.
Yeah. because once people have inquired, at least when I had my price on my website, once people had inquired, most of the time they'd go through to a call. I worked out last year I had a 70% conversion rate, which is
good. You're really
50%.
good. I think so. Yeah.
Maybe it's around 50-70% conversion rate, which is really good. Yeah, right. Like, and no one who's got their prices off their website would be able to say that because
they wouldn't. Yeah.
So yeah, about halfway through, I've had 2 to 3 inquiries per day, and I've gone hard on like replying to like them very, very quickly, just because I wanted this to be like as good as it could possibly be, right? But so since I started, we're about 20 inquiries down, 1 call booked, and everyone else who's responded to the initial inquiry has said that I'm above their budget. I have sent one that was the lowest. I literally was like, okay, let's just experiment with this. I think it was 2025, but I was like, okay, let's just do a $2,000 one. You're not on my budget.
Yeah, which is the lowest package that you offer, and you were going to offer them more than what you would normally offer.
My lowest package is $2,500. I'll put it for $19.99 just to test it. No, sorry, you're out of my budget. Yeah. So I'm getting a lot of people who are just shopping around.
Yeah.
And this whole like doing all of the extra admin has not been worth the anything really.
So I guess in a bunch of questions from that, have you had a starting from price?
No.
So you've literally just, here's the shiny, here's the beautiful films that I make, here's the how amazing I am and the rest of it.
Yeah.
Get in touch.
Yeah.
So they pretty much, so in some ways the only indication that they even have as to how much you are is literally the perception. Of what they've seen.
And I understand that like some people do have a starting from price and we'll push that, and maybe that's an experiment I'll do in the future, but at the moment I wanted to do like prices off.
Completely.
Hit me with what you got.
But I think I guess if the question that you were asking yourself is, I haven't had an inquiry for a really long time, I need to even make sure that I'm being seen.
Yeah. Being seen. That's the main.
That box, doesn't it? That's a big fat tick.
Yeah.
You know now that there are plenty of that traffic coming through your website. There are people that are getting married that want a videographer that are looking, which means that one is good in that there's people that want a videographer, and 2 that say you are being found amongst all the other websites out there.
Yeah. But on the other hand, at the prices that I have on the site, they're not booking or they're not inquiring. So, am I too expensive, or is my perceived value not what my actual value is? So am I too expensive in terms of, okay, I'm not worth this, full stop? Or is my website and the videos that I'm showing doesn't live up to the money that they will be putting down? I don't know.
Potentially. I think that's the thing to say, isn't it? Or on the third point, am I not doing a good enough job of nurturing those clients, expelling the value of what I am offer, or the charge that I put myself upon them, or doing a good enough job at selling to them, converting them?
Yeah. Is it like, do you get to the end of my website and be like, oh yeah, I paid like $2,000 for him?
Yeah.
And then that would obviously, and then you get to prices, it's like, oh, it's 2.5 to 3 in a bit, and maybe not then, sort of thing. I don't know.
And the problem is, you never hear these.
Yeah.
You never kind of hear those. Kind of, you never hear that feedback though, do you?
No,
and I understand maybe this is the reason. I've always thought it's a really icky question that people do put on their contact form is, what is your budget?
Yeah.
Because then it gives them a projected value of what they think. If you use that as a yardstick of, so you've seen my films, you've seen my branding, what do you think I'm going to charge?
Yeah.
But then that's not the question, is it? The question they're saying is, what is your budget? And if someone said to me that you can go and buy a Rolex for 500 quid, I'd pay 500 quid and buy the Rolex, knowing full well that it's worth 10 times that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that I want to spend $5,000 on one, does it?
Yeah.
There's lots of things at play, isn't there?
Perceived value,
I would almost say, from knowing you, and I'm not just saying this because you're my friend or we're sat here or whatever, is that I don't think the price that you are putting on what you make is that I don't think you're too expensive.
Yeah.
I think that's fair to say.
I
think that you are worth every penny of what you did.
Yeah.
Or on the flip side of that, if every wedding you shot this year, you gave a feedback email to your clients and said, now you know what you've paid for me, you've been through the funnels, you've had the service, you've got the film.
Yeah.
If I'd have asked you now at the beginning of your journey, what would you have paid for me?
Yeah.
I think that you'd probably get a higher percentage of them that say, yes, you're worth every penny. Or do you know what? Now I know what I know.
Probably would have paid more.
I probably would have paid more.
Yeah.
And I think if we do a good enough job with our clients, all of them would say that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't think
it's harnessing some of that into those people that are looking at you at that beginning. But then some of those people maybe would stretch and afford you. But some of those people are still never ever going to afford you because they just can't. They just haven't got the cash.
100%. Yeah. I definitely agree with that. I'm not having a crisis of confidence in terms of my price. I think I appreciate you saying that. I don't necessarily think the value of what I'm offering is, I don't think I'm charging too much or whatever. Like I do think my videos are good. Like it's obviously proven in the, like, not to brag, but the award kind of thing, the highly commended.
And also for the bookings that you have got and the venues that you're starting to move into, like from where you even were coming out of COVID, like you're starting to get into those more luxury venues, higher end venues. The couples that are booking you have clearly got more in their pocket than the ones that were booking you 3 or 4 years ago, and they all see the value in you. And if they have got the value to book a very expensive venue, they've also probably got the value to spend on a much higher end videographer if that's what they valued.
It's just the next step of the process is then figuring out, okay, so I'm being found, but why aren't people inquiring when I put my price on my website? So do I need to start showing some, like, because some of the weddings that I show are not at those high-end venues because they're weddings that I enjoyed and were fun and like have the joyful element to them, and it's quite hard. It's quite a difficult balance to reach, to be like, okay, I do charge, my highest package is somewhere like 3,200. You can pay this for me, but you're not going to get your elegant, timeless wedding film. You're going to get something which is a bit unpolished, but more fun and joyful, and that kind of like bit more upbeat, and like trying to that's quite a niche. Not a niche. It makes sense.
And I think as well that the biggest thing that I think a lot of people underappreciate when it comes down to pricing, and I've done it when I put my prices up, I thought that it would instantly price me out of certain places that I used to work, and it would open up doors to venues that maybe I thought I'd work because I put my price up that much. Is affordability. If you have a couple that have watched lots of wedding films and from the very early on, before they've even engaged, go, I want a wedding film. Even if they're in somewhere which is maybe a less, like you're in terms of, they ranked all the suppliers in their wedding day as a number 1 to 10. If you're number 1 or number 2, they're going to spend more on you than they are on food or the band, if that's what's important to them. Where some couples that maybe the venue or the florist is the most important thing, but they still want a banging video. If you're 7 or 8, there's only so much money in the pot, isn't there? And it's where you give that to whatever. And I always thought that, like, once when I made that price jump from, say, 1,700 quid to 2.5 grand, I was like, I'm never going to be working in those hotels anymore, or I'm never going to do this because I've priced myself out of those. And I haven't. It just means the couples that I get in those venues now,
you're higher up their list.
I'm a much bigger percentage of their budget than I ever was before. But the value that they have in me, or the value that they expect in what I do, is higher. Or I could go to a wedding of a much bigger budget, and then my percentage again of what I am of their budget is much less, and they just go, I'll take some nice photos. And so it's that, isn't it? Like the actual numbers that you put in front of people sometimes doesn't really dictate to where you think you're going to be, or that value of it is that maybe a lot of those people that are looking at you maybe desperately wanted to afford you, and as soon as they got the price in, they're like, I just can't afford it, I just can't make that work, like I'm going to have to go with that address to be able to afford you. And then that's
the thing, like a lot of the weddings I turn up to, you can tell they've like, they've paid that amount for me, and you turn up and there's no flowers, no decoration, and you kind of think, well, this must have been a big
push for them
of what they've paid. And I'd say probably more than half of my couples are like that, where I turn up and I'm like, I must be a decent percentage of this wedding. And I guess that shows the kind of couples that do end up booking me in the end. But
in some ways, it's a bigger compliment to have that
I guess so,
than you turning up to 100 grand wedding where you're literally like 2.5% of the budget. And they don't care. Do your job. Like
100%.
And it's those things. It's a weird one, but I think it's also very kind of brave and worthy to go, I'm going to detach myself enough from this personally and just look at numbers and see, stuff, and find out what happens. But then it's also using that, isn't it? So maybe there is a stage 2 to the experiment. If I do halfway house now, and if I go from a starting prom price and start to give them a clue, but then I'm going to make sure that my brochure is absolutely banging to really wow them. So they've got a clue that I start from this. But when they find out if they want the full day, the 2 people, it's actually this much more. They go, I can see why that's worth that.
My brochure must be decent because of my conversion rate last year, so I'm not too worried about what that kind of thing looks like. But it's a case of, okay, now I know what I know. Do I need to? I think my website looks good, but do I need to show some certain things that appeal more to people who have that kind of money? Basically, maybe. Like, because, you know, you come onto a website, first thing you see is a champagne spray of loads of people like smiling, and the next thing you see is a couple ugly laughing, or like, just like laughing like really loudly, right? But there's no, like, it takes a while before you see any like nice framed couple.
But then that comes back around to then I think there's a whole bigger conversation of what do you want out of it? Do you want the couples that want to be seen ugly laughing and don't get like their led on feeling and excitement rather than polished aesthetics, or do you want, you know, the people that care so much about how they look that then you're probably going to have to direct them a lot more, or work that make sure that you always are getting them at their best, and it's working out that what you want. But then I also don't always believe, to a degree, that there is a price attached to that. There are rich people that are happy to ugly laugh and look at that, and there's people that haven't got a big budget that still want to look like their film was torn out of a Vogue editorial.
Yeah. Anyway,
again,
really interesting thing.
We're to a wild tangent. It's a really cool thing that you've done, and it's really interesting to see from someone like myself that's never taken my prices off my site, or for you that have always kind of stood by it. It's interesting to see, because I've always had that in the back of my mind going, I wonder what would happen. Like, if I took them off, or in the end, how many inquiries would I actually get? But then I know that how needy I am is that if I started to see that, oh, that's a venue I've not been to before, I really want to go there, oh, these people sound really cool. And then you come back and they go, sorry, our budget's half that. There'd be a part of me in that would be like, well, how many of these can I afford to just maybe do a little bit for? Because I think the day would lure me in. And then, but I think then the business head at some point is going to have to say to you, no, you are worth this. In order to only, and all the reasons that I've charged more to shoot less so that I can give more to my couples, that's the reason that I think I've charged the money, not because I want to sit like a pirate on a pile of gold and laugh. It's all those things, isn't it, that kind of that money allows you to do, or allows you to be to the couples that you've booked you. But it's hard when someone goes, oh, but they just sound really nice. Like that kind of person in you that goes, I could make them such a nice film or give them such good memories.
And that's important as well, I think.
It is.
And that's one of the, again, we were talking about dynamic pricing, that's the benefits of that. Like, there were a couple of them that I replied with. In fact, the one I've got a call in, it's quite a long way away, I'm going to have to stay away, but I was like, you know what, I'll just include the hotel, like the Premier Inn price in it or whatever, because it's a nice venue that I wanted to go to.
But I think in terms of logic, dynamic pricing makes far more sense than a package price or a one-off price. Because for me, to shoot a wedding 15 minutes from my house in, you know, on a Friday or whatever, physically cost less money than me driving to the other end of the country to do this. There's a lot less fuel involved. There's not an accommodation involved. There's whatever, and all those stuff. Or the pain level or effort level is different. So in some ways, if you said, well, do you know what, I need to charge more to make that wedding worth it, and then they gauge the value of how much they want you to make you do that drive, or you go, oh, do you know what, that literally is around the corner from my house, I've got a wedding a day before anyway, so I really want to be near at home. If I can make something from that booking
schedule every
and
wedding.
do this or whatever, and that as a business, doesn't it? Dynamic pricing does make far, far more sense.
It does. It really does.
And so maybe that is the sweet spot. Maybe that all along is that a starting from price to give people kind of, you know, to know roughly where they are. So that the people that of their budget is half.
Or most couples spend. There's people do that as well. Like, or the average couple spend is, and then you kind of give them
because if you get an inquiry and that person goes, you're so far out of my budget, it's not even worth us talking. Because if their budget was 800 quid all in and your cheapest package is $2,500, you're never going to be able to agree anywhere. But if they're going, oh, do you know what, our budget's 2, he's saying he starts at 2.2, or average spend is 2.5. When that couple come on, like you're saying, you find out, well, actually their wedding is really near. It's this and this, or it's that one. There's sacrifices that can be made, can't there? Which
definitely.
You might not never even get that inquiry if your package list it's this price. Dead.
Or go home.
So it shows that you know, by opening the conversation, by providing less information, that you have been found. So it's
what you enjoy and what you love, right?
A balance all round.
There's certain venues that if I got an inquiry for right now, say like there's a venue in Devon called Tunnels Beaches. And I love that place.
It's been on my bucket list. And again, I've never published my bucket list, but it's been on mine for a long time.
I'll do that for less than $2,000 now, just because I love that place. I want to go back there. I mean, it'd be good fun.
And I think that's it, isn't it? I think that sometimes people as well are too quick to go, I have to charge this, or the idea of shooting for free and the rest of it. And I still don't think I'd get to a point now where I could afford to do a free wedding. I don't think I could. No. But if you said that is a venue which I really want to shoot at, or I want to shoot at consistently, everybody knows the easiest way to book more weddings at a venue is when you've got a wedding there to show.
100%.
So you are not taking on that wedding for less money as a way of giving the couple more. You are giving yourself the
best possible
chance of getting future work there.
Yeah.
So if you see that wedding as a marketing expense, you still make a great couple, you still put the couple through the journey, you still have a great time with them, you still treat them like any other booking, but or selfishly, you need to make sure that they are happy for you to share on socials and happy for you to do that work.
Before you even get there,
you have almost allowed that discount to happen because the value in it is worth far more than the money that you've knocked off.
Yeah. And that's exactly a situation I think I mentioned at the beginning of this pod, a booking I had recently where it was the end of a triple. Their budget was a bit lower, but it was a venue that I want to keep shooting at, and I need sort of more footage from it. It was a couple who literally, when we're on the call, expressed interest in everything that I do. Like personally, like I love the way that you clearly get the bridal party out and bring a champagne bottle and that kind of stuff. And I'd never told them I do this stuff, but she said it's obvious.
They've identified that
you go there and you hype them up, because that doesn't happen without you being there. I was like, do you know what? Like this is so like these people get me so much. I can't say no now. And and
that helps as well, isn't it? But it's nice to turn up, especially at the third wedding of a triple, to still turn up for a couple that you're super excited to go, and they're going to really appreciate you being there on maybe a day, because that energy alone will drag you through however physically tired you are from being the third wedding in a row.
Be worth it. So obviously you've put something about your inquiries as well, and you're doing a mentorship program. So I'm wondering how it's changed that kind of thing.
Obviously, like you've been doing your experiment, I noticed at the end of last year that inquiries maybe were coming in a little bit slower, and also up to now. Again, we spoke about it in the past. I've probably always been able to have a hard look in the mirror and know what the answers are, or know what I'm not doing, and it's just having a bit of a talking to yourself to go, if you did that, you'd probably start to pick up,
sort it out.
And I feel like over the end of last year, or for the last half of last year, should we say, that I was running out of answers.
Yeah.
And I think, again, by doing
I've tried this, I've tried that.
You feel that there's more people looking at you for the answers.
Yeah.
So maybe I felt a little bit more like, I don't have them.
Yeah.
I'm doing okay. The couples that I'm still getting, I'm loving.
Yeah.
But that net, the holes on it seem tighter than ever, and what's getting through doesn't seem to be coming as thick and fast anymore. So again, from someone that definitely wants to keep doing this job, but wants work and the rest of it, I decided that maybe for the first time is to go and look at, I've done education in the past, I've been to conferences, I've been to workshops, and they've always been game changing for me. They've always helped me along. So to maybe take on something a little bit more long form, a little bit more one-to-one, and see if someone could help me. So I did. So I started in March, and I've been doing a mentorship program for the past 3 months with Lisa Devlin, who runs Photography Farm. So anybody obviously that knows me knows that I've been going to her conferences that she's been putting on for a number of years. We had a one-to-one onboarding call. I told her kind of the problems I was experiencing, all the things that I would like to get out of it, and she seemed to think that she could definitely help me. And so I am on like a group program where there's 6 of us. So there's kind of set modules. We have a group call of that, go away and do the work, and then we have a follow-up one-to-one that does that work, or that's much more kind of honed in. Although the knowledge is kind of more general, she can then tailor it to each of us individually our one-to-ones. And I will say that over the first start of the year, I have seen a lift in inquiries from the staff, or quite simple changes, things that once you hear someone telling it to you, go, you're actually really smart. It's stuff that should appear quite obvious, but isn't. A lot of it was to do with kind of copy and stuff and the way the website works. And doing those changes, I even look at my own site now with a much greater degree of confidence and go, do you know what? I think this is I feel in the past, I've never felt that the word bits always come the most hard to me.
They are.
Or I've done what I've thought, or when I've done a new website, there's still been an element of using a lot of the old phrases and copy from the site before because I didn't know the best way to change it. And a lot of that has been challenged and starting to open up some new methods and already starting to see things working. I will say, like we've said, the last couple of weeks, I feel that things have just hit a wall. But then the weather's got really nice.
It has,
So again, looking back,
happens, doesn't it?
Looking back on other years, I'm about to go into what is normally a quiet 2 or 3 months for inquiries. Because people are, going on holiday, getting engaged. Not the people that have got engaged at Christmas and Valentine's Day are starting to get sorted now, and those people are hanging on for their summer holidays now to go and get the next round of engaged people. And that sort of stuff. So. But I think I'm looking at that stuff with a much more degree of kind of clarity and help, where before I would always think it's me. Where now I feel like I'm actively working on the things that I'm being taught or shown or highlighted, that it's like, no, it's not me. I'm putting the work in. And to a certain degree, you've got to just trust the process or let it happen or put yourself in the best possible position, you know, to be the ripest fruit on the tree and just wait for someone to come and pick you, I think, in the end.
Yeah, it's like we say on that doing this pod, sometimes you just need another person's perspective.
Yes.
And we're so lucky that we've got each other, that
Yeah.
we can give each other that perspective on our businesses and stuff like that. And sometimes you need someone to be like, oh, why are you doing that then?
Yeah.
And sort of like, and to have someone who then, like, obviously you're paying for this mentorship, and like she's someone who knows quite a lot to look at your business and actually say, so could you not do this, or is there something that you could do about this?
And I think that's huge. I think, you know, I only had a call with her, but I looked at 2 or 3 other people that were offering programs.
Yeah.
I looked at their businesses and go, well, do I kind of want what they've got?
Yeah.
Or what testimonials from other people that have done their program, and think, well, if I look at the people that have gone on their course before and where they've gone to go, does it seem that it's worked? Has it set them not only up for the time they're on the program, has it helped them elevate themselves or give them the skills that they need after they've graduated from the 3 months? And I think also for me as well, is I know that I live by post-it notes and notes. Once I get into season, I'm really good at firefighting and trying to keep on top of stuff.
Yeah.
But accountability to get stuff done, or even some of the stuff that you go, oh no, I should have done that, but I just haven't got round to it. It's one of the things that always gets left on the list till next time. And then till next time. To go, we are going to meet in 3 weeks' time and have this call. I'd like to see you get this done so I can review it.
Yeah.
You find the time to get it done, or it makes it a bigger priority. And having someone just that accountable to go, like, I need deadlines for stuff.
Yeah.
But when, again, like we said, we have ability to make change in our businesses because we are only us. We're the only person setting our deadlines to make us accountable as well.
And it will keep going down and down. Yeah.
There may be, like, that's something going forward that I would like to maybe look at, is maybe set up a small group of people where you do just have an accountability thing, where you sit down 1 month and go, this is what I'm planning to do, or this is an idea I've got. And then when you come back the next month, you have 3 people going, have you done it? Yeah. And almost just something just to keep you kind of moving on those tasks. You know, which are one task of many in a business, aren't they?
Yes.
But as a whole, I haven't asked her yet, but I might like to ask Lisa to get to come on the pod and speak about that alone. Obviously, she runs Farm and Thrive and all the rest of the stuff. But even just the idea of kind of where you begin to, you know, whilst you'll ask someone that runs a business, I think that might be quite a cool chat to have in how she manages to navigate all of that. Because I have nothing but good things to say about the mentorship program. It finishes at the end of this month. I believe we're into next, and then there will be another opening for the next round. So she runs it in sort of 3-month batches. Yeah. So if you're looking for something similar, again, I'm not paid to say this or endorsed by it. I'm just someone which has been, you know, I was a long time fan of her conferences, and I feel that the tools that she's given me over the last few months have really made me feel a lot more confident in the bits of my business which were never my strengths, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like I'm an okay photographer, or I can learn in those areas, but when it comes to copywriting or to marketing or to ads or those things, they're things that I've just never had skills in.
It's only other people that can tell you what that copywriting sounds like.
Exactly.
To you, it's always going to sound like the way you thought it sounded.
And some of it's such simple things. When someone reads you your own copy back to you, and you go, well, I thought that sounded banging. And now you're like, I just sound like an idiot. Or like my love of exclamation marks. That was something that got pointed out early on. Yeah. And it was like, okay. And so again, it's been really, really good. And I think the main thing is never be too humble to think that you can't learn something. Yeah. There are 5 other people on my mentorship group that have all lived in different parts of the UK and are all at very different stages of their business. There's someone on there who has been a bird for 20 years, or there's someone that has gone full time in the duration of the program. Yeah. Wow. And so it's really nice sometimes to see things from their point of view at the very beginning of it, or someone who's been much further down the road from you and how they're still struggling to kind of, or finding a balance of staying excited and relevant and all of those things. So yeah, it's a well worthwhile thing. And I think, and if you've never gone to education or even gone to that next step of looking at being mentored, I've found the whole thing really, really rewarding.
I think that's really interesting. I think we should have Lisa on, because as much as we've sat here and spoken about education quite a lot on courses and things like that, we haven't really spoken about mentoring a lot, if at all. I think to do something like that very one-to-one, to be able to find a photographer whose business model that you really like or respect, or you think that they do one thing in their business really, really well, to be able to jump on a call or go and grab a coffee and sit with that person and then be willing to share knowledge or help lift you up, is, I think, to get that like real one-to-one to it, that's so much more valuable. Difference. It's not just to watch a video and how do I apply this to my business. Generic, it's if you do this in your instance, this will make a difference. It's brilliant and worth the money. You'd recommend it?
Definitely. Yeah.
So actually, offer a few products myself as well,
Yeah.
and mentoring as well. Talked about
Yeah,
mentoring.
you'd spoken about them, haven't you, at the time when
Yeah.
you've obviously released the contracts, and we spoke about that on the pod a little bit, haven't we?
Yeah. So I offer a contract, which has actually been my most popular thing, because I think it's one thing that people just don't know where to start with.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, I got my contract written by a solicitor in 2020. It's a few pages, it's airtight, it has a lot of information in it. And 2 years ago, I think, I started basically selling it to other suppliers. It's obviously, that's something that solicitor said I could do. I can't give legal advice, but what I can do is give you the template, and then I've got a guide that comes with it.
I think that was the biggest game changer for me, is the fact that it's having something which is so airtight and sounds really fancy, but if you don't understand it,
you need to
if
know.
your clients question you on a clause and you go, I don't know, mate, solicitor wrote this, it must be good.
Yeah.
To have like the kind of the breakdown of what each clause means and how you can use that to your advantage or to the couple's advantage when booking with you, that was what I think that addition alone is what sets it apart from lots of other contract templates that you can buy.
Exactly. And I feel like a lot of the information was so handy, especially over COVID as well, when everyone was like, so what's my legal requirements for this? What's my legal requirements for that? And for the most part, the questions asked to solicitor were very much like, if you think you can enforce it, if it seems fair, you probably can. If you have a clause in there which doesn't seem fair, the judge will take one look at it and be like, well, that shouldn't be allowed in there.
Yeah.
So like there were a few times where he stopped me from putting stuff in there because he was like, that would
never fly in court anyway.
Yeah. And there are a lot of things which is like, okay, what does this mean and why do I need it? Like, again, I don't want to go too much into it because I've probably spoken about it a lot on the pod before. But the reason I got it written was because someone tried to basically con me out of a lot of money because I hadn't defined what an uncut ceremony is, and they believed that the uncut ceremony should be from the moment the first guest enters that ceremony room to the moment the last guest exits.
Yeah, so they felt that you hadn't delivered on the parameters.
And everyone listening to this right now has been like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And yes, it is, but
It is.
legally you need to
But again, trying to take
that
that to a court ruling, if there's no set parameters for that, in front of a judge that knows nothing about videography, you could go, well,
they might actually agree.
seems plausible.
Yeah. So that's available on the website if you want to go have a look. But
on the new website,
yeah. So that actually leads on to so essentially I've got a couple of products. I've got a pre-wedding questionnaire, actually this is on there now, contract, and then the mentoring stuff on there. But I was paying £25 a month for Shopify.
Okay.
On top of my...
So you used to run your site, because when you reboot your site last year,
on Showit.
You were on Showit, and then that was like a separate... So it was like almost an extension to the site where they hopped over to Spotify, Shopify, when they clicked on the product or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so it would go over to Shopify, and then you have a different URL for it, and it's a whole thing. And it was a lot of faffing for like a handful of products or things that you could buy basically. And I get Shopify's like, if you want to expand is the one, right? But
it's to run a shop.
Exactly. To run a shop.
For us, holding a handful of products.
Yeah. So I was paying for that monthly, and I was also paying for Showit, and like I'm someone who's really trying to get my like subscriptions down and trying to like be minimal about that kind of life stuff. So I had a look around and basically landed on Squarespace. And essentially what I wanted to do is have my website and my shop all in one place and have it handle the cart for me and everything like that, but it also be cheaper than my Showit and Shopify combination.
And obviously work more seamlessly because it can live under one URL and everything else. And like I don't say I told you so, but I've been using Squarespace for a long time now. I think probably the past at least 6 or 7 years, maybe. I think since I've been using Squarespace. And don't get me wrong, it has evolved a lot. At that very, very beginning stage, a lot of the stuff probably wasn't fit for purpose. I chose it over ease of design, and again, ignorance of I can do it all myself, and I could do Squarespace all myself because it was templated and this and that. But I think over the particularly last 2 or 3 years, they have really come into their own in offering a lot of this, say like the aftermarket sales and keeping that inside. Yeah. They even have their own like mailing list option now and stuff. Yeah. So if you were paying for like MailChimp and things like that, like a lot of the other companies that you would have to bolt onto a bog standard site, you can now live all under one subscription and one house of Squarespace, can't you?
Yeah. I looked into the mailing list and things like that because it's something I probably want to do going forward in the future when I've got a bit more under my belt. But yeah, all of that, like you say, was included in one. And I went on and I was like, I hate Squarespace. I used it, probably tried to use it a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, like you say. And I was like, this is so limiting. And like the design is so boring because you can't do enough of it because
Yeah.
you've got to fit it all into these like cubes, and I really didn't like it. And I'm sure, I mean, we have a website designer who is going to come on the pod very soon, Sophie from Loyal Studios, formerly Sophie Amelia Designs, who is going to come on the pod. And I told her I was switched to Squarespace, and she was like, I hated that. She was like, can you please tell me why? Because I hated it.
Which is funny, isn't it? Because obviously let's say she is a Showit expert. Like, she's like a qualified Showit expert. So if you build a site of her, it's only with Showit, isn't it? Which is obviously who you were with. So for you to move away from them, I imagine that she is really quite curious why.
Yeah, I know she would be. Yeah. And I feel like she felt she had the same sort of reservations that I had, which was like it was limiting, it was just annoying to use. But I gave it a go, and what I tried to do first is recreate my homepage that I had in Showit, but in Squarespace. I was like, if this is easy to do, I'll do the rest.
So with the view to see how near I can get it to look the same and how quickly.
And within an hour, I had that homepage recreated, and I was like, do you know what? I'm going to do it. Because, don't get me wrong, I think Showit is good, but Showit is a designer's website designer, I think.
Yeah. But I would also say as well, and we, anyone that's listened to this pod for a long time would know that I would say, were a lot more switched on with technology, coding, and a lot more savvy in that stuff than I am.
Yeah.
And so maybe like I wouldn't even know where to begin. That's a lot of the reasons that I left WordPress well alone. Like having to get a plugin and install it on that and get a server. Like it seems so much more of like something, so many more levels, or again, you needed some sort of qualification in web design to do. And I know that Showit works in a similar way, doesn't it? That's kind of based off of a WordPress platform, isn't it? So there's a lot more involved to get the bells and whistles that you need.
Yeah, so your blog is WordPress, so you have like a separate like login for your blog and that kind of thing, and it all works seamlessly under one belt, and you could actually use like WordPress for your homepage and things like that. But the main thing is that there was infinite possibilities, which made it probably more difficult. And I think my website looked great on it, don't get me wrong. I liked the website. There was nothing wrong with the website. All I was trying to do is culminate a couple of subscriptions and get everything in one place.
So the same result though, essentially. If you can get something which looks the same, but then it's going to cost you a lot less.
Moved over to Squarespace, literally copied everything like as much as I could, so it looked pretty much the same as the website I had before, but now I've got the shop which is built in, the cart's built in and everything like that, and I'm not paying for Shopify anymore. And actually really enjoying Squarespace as well. Good. Some of the plugins that are in there, like I've got the Instagram plugin, so my Instagram like feed is sort of at the bottom, which was I think possible with Showit, but it didn't integrate in the way that I wanted it to integrate. It was really, really quick to transfer everything over. I think it took me about a day to literally
just pretty good to move a whole site of multiple pages.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know the copy was written. Yeah. You're moving images that hopefully you've already got saved and stuff, but to still replicate something in its entirety in the space of a few hours is pretty remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great. And I know you've been using it for a while, and I do think that like if someone hasn't tried it in a while, Squarespace, and you're looking at like getting your website redone, but you don't want something that's gonna, if you're not massive on tech, Showit is definitely going to make you feel like, oh my god, what am I doing here?
Or also, again, much that we were talking about budgets and pricing with our couples earlier, if you don't have the budget, like we're going to speak to Sophie in our next episode, and I have no doubt, and I've seen the sites that she makes, and they are fantastic. They are amazing, and the brand that she pulls together and the rest of it. But if you're not at that point in your business yet, that you maybe have the budget to go and spend on a bespoke website, or that you're in a transitional phase until you get to a style that you're really set on, that you want to invest in something like that. Something that like Squarespace, I think, to kind of get you started or off the ground is a really good place to start. And we found that I've grown with it, and the knowledge that I've gained in it, I've never wanted to change. But then if you do then want to go on to something afterwards, but the option's there, isn't it?
The thing I'm really struggling with is the titles.
Okay.
Like it's quite limiting in that you set a title font size, and then it goes across all pages.
Yes.
So there are some times where my H2s I want to be a little bit bigger, and some pages where I'm like, actually, that looks too big. So I'm like trying to get the perfect, and it just
I agree that when you make that block, you should be able to set the size within the block rather than, let's say, have 3 different heading sizes for H1, H2, and H3, and it have to be the same.
Yeah.
But then I just kind of have to work in blind faith that it will come. They are pretty responsive in listening to what people want. So as long as you write something in the comments box that if enough people say it, hopefully it will change.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's improvised things for people.
Exactly, that's it.
Things, yeah.
Or again, it's only going to be at a level you pay for what you get. Like if you go to a Sophie built site or another Showit, it takes a lot more effort to put in, or you need to get the help of an expert. But the payoff is those little nuances, which really do kind of push it that last bit, don't they?
Definitely.
But yeah, really excited to get her on. Obviously, when we went to the summit, she was at the summit. We got the same flight home, didn't we? That really early one. We put the world to rights at like 8 a.m. Stood in the lobby of Southampton Airport. And if we can harness even a slice of that chat in the episode that we have with her, it will be a really, really good one. Yeah, it'd be good. Yeah,
definitely.
So yeah, I can't wait for that. So again, we said a minute ago, we're going to finish up the catch with a little bit of gossip, aren't we, or a little bit of shadiness that you feel. And I'm always here for a little bit of a little bit of gossip.
So I've seen a couple of posts about this across different Facebook groups, and people clearly getting a little bit riled up about it. And that is VidFlow are making like some changes which aren't very welcome for the users, basically.
I also really love as well that out of most of the podcasts in our space are sponsored by VidFlow, and because we're not, that we can say this. I feel that maybe some of the others might think it, but are maybe tied in other ways. I'm not going to say whether they are or whether they aren't, because that's really not our place.
Yeah.
But in some ways, I think it's quite smug that we can call this stuff
be
out
honest about it,
because we're not associated. In
look, maybe it's making mountains out of molehills, but this is like
but you are a user, you are a customer, aren't you, of their product?
Yeah.
And if you think this, I doubt that you are alone in your thoughts.
So for people that don't know, VidFlow is obviously like the gallery system that a lot of videographers use to deliver their videos. You essentially like the couple's private link is like a DVD menu, and it has the big picture and then sort of like a list of the chapters, like film, trailer, ceremony, speeches, that kind of thing. When you go to start a couple's gallery, you get, I think it's 500 megabytes or something of space included in that gallery.
Okay. So do you pay a yearly subscription for that?
No.
So it's free to sign up to VidFlow,
yes.
But then you buy the credits per...
Yeah, so 500 megabytes, and then you buy credits for any space on top of that.
Yeah.
And I think off the top of my head, this isn't massively relevant, but I think off the top of my head, it's 5 gigabytes per credit.
And how much is a credit?
I buy them in bulk, so it's like 20 credits for like 90 quid or something.
Just to get a rough idea. So you're looking at about a £5 a credit, roughly.
Yeah, right. So something like that. So you'd buy these credits, and then like, say for example, you put a trailer on there. It's not taking up the 500 megabytes, so you're all good. And then you go to put their full film on there, and what it will do, it will come up with a pop-up saying, you've exceeded the limit. Do you want to use a credit on this? Yeah. And you say yes, and you use,
because you've bought a batch of 10 or whatever, and then they're sat in your account.
And you can see in the top right of the screen, you have X amount of credits left at all times. Yeah.
So you say, like when you pay Fortnite and you got your V-Bucks total in your total,
exactly, right? So you basically bought this.
What you call them, VidBucks?
Currency.
That's so much cooler than credits. That's so much better.
You bought this currency that you can now only use for these films. And you can see how much you've got left at all times, and then it asks you if you want to add a credit so you can upload that film. Obviously, you want to upload the film, so you say yes, all good. This has now changed in a recent update, so that you are no longer notified if you go over that 500 megabytes. It will just start taking credits from you.
Okay.
So
it works on the assumption that because you've pressed upload, that you do want to upload it, and it takes you.
And it will automatically take the credit from you. Yeah. Which I think is sketchy, because
especially if you upload in error or double upload or or don't have credits left, that automatically then charges you. Yeah.
But think of it as like if this was actual real money, right?
Yeah.
If you hadn't converted this to credits, right, and you just went, okay, I want to upload this film, and then suddenly £5 disappears from your bank account, you'd be quite gutted.
Yeah.
But because you'd already spent that money on credits, you might be like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll take it then.
Or if you knew you had a film to deliver and you think, oh, I've got enough credits in there to last me, but then you haven't when you go to upload that or whatever, and it becomes the whole thing.
Like if you just imagine, like credits are just basically just real money that you've exchanged for VidFlow money. And they're literally taking a £5 out of your account automatically because they assume that you've uploaded. What if you accidentally click the wrong thing to upload?
Yeah, the wrong file. Yeah.
Like there's been times before, because I compress my videos a fair bit so that I don't have to pay for as many credits.
To keep it under a 5.
Yeah. And there's been times before where I've accidentally clicked the uncompressed one, and then it will say, oh, do you want to add a credit? And I'm like, oh no, because
you've realised that it shouldn't be that size. Imagine now if you uploaded a bigger file, it automatically just took 2 credits from you to fill it.
It would.
Yeah.
It would automatically take it. And then to rub salt into that wound, they've now taken off the counter at the top, which shows how many credits you've got. So you now have to go into your account to see how many credits.
So you don't even know. So
it
could take them without you even realising.
Yeah, you wouldn't even
essentially
know. There's no way for them to see that it's gone down. And I just think they're two really small changes that will make, I reckon, a good difference to their profit margin, but has made that user experience just like for a company that... Like, I think VidFlow is like the absolute top of the game in terms of video delivery.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, all the videos that I've spoken to use it.
Yeah.
And even, I think for me, the biggest thing, sat here as a photographer that knew nothing about VidFlow until started doing this pod review or speaking to other videographers.
Yeah.
That, like, it's basically like PicTime, isn't it, if you're a photographer thing. Obviously, PicTime have started offering video, but I think the biggest calling card for VidFlow for me is the fact that it has the smart TV app, so that you can sit down and like when you log into iPlayer for the first time on your TV, you to do the QR code, you put the code in or whatever, and then it appears. Like, and I think now even for my slideshows or even a couple to sit and view, a lot of my couples are viewing their photos for the first time on a laptop or an iPad and just swiping. If they could put that on the 40-inch screen they've got in their house easily, it would be a game changer, and that's I think it's a great feature.
And that's why most
people
use it. I think it's so easy to get from app to web to TV. It's just so
which
good.
is in terms of client experience, you want that couple to experience that film for the first time on a big TV, not on their iPhone lent on each other's shoulders on their couch, do you?
So I think it's a great platform, and I think that will help their profit margins. But I just think it's a little bit anti-consumer.
Especially as well in that we are still fairly niche communities. There are only a certain amount of people, mainly probably mentioned wedding videographers, that use VidFlow. And so they are quite, and I find in terms of software, people are quite clicky in that once someone starts to move or an alternative pops up, if a big enough name's attached to it or goes, this is better, people flock away from things around quite quickly. And so knowing that market is a market which is on the up, and again, people like PicTime, where there's a couple of others are starting to introduce video and stuff. It's not a time to upset the apple cart, is it? If you've got a loyal following, simple changes that don't really add that much to you, it seems that you might make a few more, vid bucks in the first place because people are going, oh crap, I didn't realise that. But in terms of long-term loyalty, people
go somewhere else because it's like, okay, this is a bit.
You don't care about me as a consumer because you're quick enough to take my $5. But in the meantime, if that means then they move everything, but they've lost out all around, haven't they?
The official message, because people have emailed them and reached out, is that apparently people found it confusing when it popped up saying, do you want to spend a credit on this?
But that's how spends, or when you buy tickets on a website or anything, you get that, tick the terms and conditions. Are you sure you want to spend this money before you press the button?
When you're on Fortnite and you buy a skin.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you sure you want to buy this? It's going to cost you this
always
much.
get there. Once you press this button, there's no going back. The money is going type thing. So,
imagine walking to a shop and then literally just picking up a chocolate bar to look at it. And your $5 has already gone, disappeared from your account just because you picked it up.
You've got to have it now.
It's so I just thought I'd mention that
but especially that, again, we've got a wealth of videographer listeners that maybe hadn't realised that, or again are slower off the mark this year, that are only starting to not even deliver some of the films they've shot yet, and then wonder where that little credit thing's gone or whatever. It's we are here to point out sometimes the not so good as well as the good, aren't we? So I think it's definitely worth bringing up.
On the flip side of that, 1 second. On the flip side of that, you said about seeing your photos on the TV. VidFlow are now actually offering photos gallery as well.
You reckon that's their little swipe back at PicTime? It's like, I see you in your video, I'm going to raise you and I'm going to put photos.
It's very much a response to that. But I've started seeing now it comes up with, you can have hybrid galleries, photo gallery and video gallery.
Okay. But again, though, you've got to think, a full gallery for me, even run through JPEG Mini, is probably still 5 or 6 gigs, so it's going to cost me per gallery to upload, which I guess if you're not doing big volume, obviously PicTime they don't work on a credit model, they work on a subscription model. You either you pay certain amounts for the amount of storage that you want, whether it's 100 gigabyte, 500, whatever, topping out at an unlimited, which is what I pay for. So I use it as a free cloud backup. I've the last 3 years weddings since I moved over to them on there. So all of my galleries, whether they're archived or not, still live on there, and they can stay there for the rest of time for still that really one unlimited spend. So maybe in 10 years' time, when I've got 500 galleries on there, I'm still only paying that one size fits all.
Never mind that then. VidFlow photo galleries only last 2 years. So.
But that's it, isn't it? Which again, I agree. I've probably got galleries sat on there for couples that are no longer together already. But in terms of my own kind of preservation, or again with after sales and stuff like that. If a couple came back to me 3 years down the line and go, we're finally going to get some prints sorted out, I can press a button, their gallery's live again. They can dive into the shop and then buy their prints. So again, there's plus and minus, isn't there? But definitely. I would love PicTime to make a TV function.
Yeah,
but I think that'd be great if they could do that.
That would be good. Yeah,
and again, it's quite interesting that now with the rise of hybrid and stuff as well, that we are going to start to get some of this competition come about.
Yeah.
And
like the companies that previously only target photographers are moving over a little bit, and then vice versa. So
but anyway, I think we're looking at 3 cameras now, which are all saying
they're all good.
No battery. So I guess we're probably at a time that we should probably
been a long old episode.
It's been a hell of a catch up, hasn't it?
It has, yeah.
So again, we've dropped knowledge already. We are going to have Sophie on for our next episode. So if you want to know anything about websites, if you met her at the summit, or if you're aware of what she does, I think that's going to be a really good episode.
It's been a great episode.
And also, I think probably one of our first non-photo or video guests as well.
Yes.
So I think that'd be really, really good and kind of new territory for the pod.
Yeah. A little bit more business orientated. Yeah.
If you've stuck with us for the last nearly 100 minutes, we thank you. We love that we're all caught up. Also, let us know. This is the 3rd or 4th episode now where we're doing the new 3-camera setup.
Yes.
Like, we are fully loving it.
Let us know what you think. Yeah.
I think it has brought more of you to YouTube, which is nice that you want to see our faces and that the effort that we've put into making the setup.
We've had some great comments on it as well, haven't we?
Yes.
Yeah, which has been really nice. And I noticed that the other day that someone looked up our podcast, someone completely outside the industry, was like, oh my God, you got a podcast. And I was like, telling them about it. They looked it up and they were like, oh my God, you've got some 5-star reviews. I didn't even realise because I haven't looked, but you guys have been leaving 5-star reviews. So please continue.
Thank you, and do more of that.
Go on shop at
Shopify,
Go on Spotify.
Buy your vidbox, 5-star review, whatever, all of that stuff. Just we like it when you say nice things. Or also, again, if we start doing things that are shady, call us out on it. But we don't plan to anytime soon, do we? So with all that in mind, and the fact that all of our device batteries are dying,
about to go.
We thank you.
And we'll see you in the next one. Oh, we smashed that.
Yes.